John Gotti, the infamous boss of the Gambino crime family, is a figure who continues to captivate true crime enthusiasts with his audacious rise to power and eventual downfall. Known as the Teflon Don for his ability to dodge convictions, Gotti was larger than life, both in the courtroom and on the streets of New York. From orchestrating bold assassinations to manipulating the media and maintaining a lavish lifestyle under intense scrutiny, Gotti's story is filled with jaw-dropping moments. In this documentary, we'll dive into some interesting facts about John Gotti's criminal empire that will not only surprise you, but also shed light on the dangerous allure of organized crime. Buckle up. This is the tale of a mobster who lived by his own rules until they finally caught up with him. The Teflon Don nickname. John Gotti earned the notorious moniker Teflon Don due to his uncanny ability to evade conviction despite facing multiple serious charges. Throughout the 1980s, law enforcement made concerted efforts to bring the charismatic mob boss to justice, but Gotti seemed untouchable in the courtroom. He faced 3 high-profile trials during this decade, each one threatening to dismantle his empire, but the charges simply wouldn't stick, hence the Teflon reference. In these trials, witness intimidation, jury tampering, and his ability to inspire loyalty within the ranks of his criminal network were widely believed to play a significant role in his courtroom victories. Every acquittal only elevated his status, reinforcing his image as a criminal mastermind who was always one step ahead of the law. Gotti's Teflon persona became a symbol of defiance against a legal system that appeared powerless to bring down one of New York's most notorious mafia figures. This earned him not just fear and respect within organized crime circles, but also a twisted form of public admiration. Many saw him as a modern-day Robin Hood, a larger-than-life figure who thumbed his nose at the establishment while maintaining a slick, polished image in the media. In fact, Gotti's ability to charm the public and dominate headlines worked to his advantage, feeding into the mythos of the untouchable Teflon Don. However, as his fame grew, so did the determination of law enforcement to finally break through that protective surface. The assassination of Paul Castellano. John Gotti's rise to power culminated in one of the most brazen acts in Mafia history, the assassination of his own boss, Paul Castellano. On December 16, 1985, in a stunning display of underworld boldness, Castellano was gunned down outside Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan, just steps away from New York's bustling streets. The murder occurred in broad daylight, marking a clear signal that Gotti was unafraid to challenge Mafia tradition and seize control of the powerful Gambino crime family. This assassination was not just a power grab, but a turning point in the Mafia's own unspoken rules. Castellano's death symbolized a breach of the Mafia's code of conduct, where internal family disputes were supposed to remain behind closed doors. Gotti's orchestration of the hit was a calculated move that secured his position as the new boss of the Gambino family, cementing his status as one of the most powerful men in organized crime. With Castellano out of the picture, Gotti wasted no time consolidating his influence and reshaping the operations of the family. This ruthless decision demonstrated his willingness to eliminate even those closest to him if it meant securing his own rise to power. The assassination sent shockwaves through both the Mafia world and the public, as the event was not just a strategic move within the underworld. It was also a spectacle that solidified Gotti's reign over the Gambinos, earning him respect and fear in equal measure. Public persona and media manipulation. Unlike the majority of his mobster contemporaries, who operated in the shadows to avoid drawing law enforcement's eye, John Gotti embraced the limelight. He carefully crafted a larger-than-life public persona, strutting around New York in designer suits and driving luxurious cars, always surrounded by a posse of bodyguards. Gotti was keenly aware of the power of the media, and he used it to his advantage, transforming himself into an anti-hero in the eyes of the public. Reporters and photographers seemed magnetically drawn to his flamboyance and charm, and Gotti, ever the showman, never shied away from the attention. He would often smile and wave at the cameras as if he were a celebrity, rather than the head of one of the most powerful crime families in the country. This media-savvy approach helped Gotti foster a strange form of public adoration. People began to view him as a modern-day Robin Hood, an image he carefully cultivated, despite his violent criminal enterprises. He was perceived as a man who stood up to the government, unafraid of the law, and even as someone who helped out his local community in small ways. His ability to charm the press and manipulate public opinion provided him with a veneer of invincibility that made it harder for law enforcement to turn public sentiment against him. In the court of public opinion, Gotti wasn't just a mob boss, he was a cultural icon, a symbol of defiance and style, which only further complicated efforts to bring him down. The role of Sammy the Bull Gravano. Despite John Gotti's ability to evade conviction for years, his downfall came from within his own organization. His underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano, played a crucial role in dismantling Gotti's reign. Gravano had long been a trusted figure in the Gambino crime family, serving as Gotti's right-hand man and overseeing many of the family's operations. However, when faced with the prospect of life in prison after being indicted for a slew of charges, including multiple murders, Gravano decided to turn state's witness in exchange for leniency. In a shocking betrayal that rocked the Mafia world, Gravano agreed to testify against Gotti, offering detailed insider knowledge of the crime family's activities, Gotti's role in Castellano's murder, and other incriminating secrets. Gravano's testimony was a devastating blow to Gotti's defense and was pivotal in securing his conviction during the 1992 trial. His insider knowledge laid bare the workings of the Gambino family, and his credibility as a once loyal enforcer made his testimony impossible to refute. This marked the end of Gotti's reign, as he was convicted on charges of murder, racketeering, and conspiracy, and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Gravano's decision to flip on Gotti was a watershed moment in Mafia history, showing that even the most powerful mob boss could be brought down by the betrayal of those closest to him. It also shattered the Mafia's code of silence, forever altering the landscape of organized crime in America. Bugged conversations. One of the key turning points in the FBI's relentless pursuit of John Gotti came with a brilliantly executed surveillance operation. Investigators managed to plant listening devices in an apartment above Gotti's favorite haunt, the Ravenite Social Club in Little Italy. This unassuming building was a hub for Gotti's criminal operations, a place where he held court and conducted Mafia business under the belief that he was safe from prying ears. The FBI, however, had other plans. The bugs installed in the apartment above captured damning conversations where Gotti openly discussed sensitive Mafia operations, ordered hits on rivals, and revealed the inner workings of the Gambino crime family. These recordings exposed Gotti in a way that no amount of jury tampering or media manipulation could undo. The tapes were a gold mine of evidence, providing law enforcement with the irrefutable proof they needed to crack the Teflon shield that had protected Gotti for so long. In one particularly damaging conversation, Gotti was heard boasting about ordering the murder of Paul Castellano, his predecessor as boss of the Gambino family. These recorded discussions proved to be the linchpin in Gotti's eventual conviction. The FBI's persistence and technological ingenuity finally gave prosecutors the ammunition they needed to dismantle Gotti's carefully crafted image and bring the self-proclaimed Dapper Don to justice once and for all. Lavish lifestyle despite scrutiny. Even under the constant gaze of law enforcement, John Gotti flaunted a lifestyle that exuded wealth and power, seemingly indifferent to the heat of the spotlight. His residence in Howard Beach, Queens, was a lavish mansion that symbolized his success, complete with manicured lawns, ornate decorations, and all the trappings of wealth. He was often seen cruising around New York City in luxury cars, dressed in finely tailored suits and dripping in expensive jewelry. This conspicuous display of wealth was not just a personal indulgence, but part of Gotti's carefully cultivated image as a mob boss who lived large despite the odds stacked against him. Gotti's opulence stood in stark contrast to the Mafia's traditional code of keeping a low profile, a practice intended to avoid unwanted attention from law enforcement. By flaunting his wealth and living publicly in the lap of luxury, Gotti thumbed his nose at both the authorities and the old-school Mafia values. His high-profile presence only heightened the intrigue surrounding him, contributing to the mythic status that made him a household name far beyond the world of organized crime. However, it was also this lifestyle, bold, unrestrained, and out in the open, that drew even more scrutiny from the FBI and ultimately helped build the case that would bring down the Teflon Don. Death in prison. Following his conviction in 1992, John Gotti was sent to the United States Penitentiary in Marion, Illinois, one of the most secure prisons in the country. Isolated from the outside world, Gotti's life behind bars was a sharp contrast to the lavish lifestyle he had once flaunted. In Marion's maximum security environment, the former Gambino crime boss was kept under constant surveillance, living in near total isolation. His time in prison reflected a dramatic fall from grace, Once a feared and admired figure, Gotti was now confined to a small cell, cut off from the criminal empire he once ruled with an iron fist. Despite these conditions, Gotti never expressed regret for his actions, continuing to assert his dominance even behind bars, where he remained a symbol of Mafia power. In 1998, Gotti was diagnosed with throat cancer, a battle that would slowly erode his health. Over the next few years, his condition worsened, but even as his physical body deteriorated, Gotti's reputation as a criminal icon endured. On June 10, 2002, John Gotti died in prison at the age of 61. His death marked the end of an era for the Gambino crime family and the larger Mafia world. With Gotti's passing, the Gambinos began to shift away from the flashy, high-profile leadership that had defined Gotti's reign, returning to a more traditional and discreet approach. Gotti's life and death left a lasting legacy in American organized crime, symbolizing both the height of Mafia power and its eventual decline in the face of relentless law enforcement efforts. The case of John Gotti continues to intrigue and mystify, even decades after his reign over the Gambino family came to a dramatic end. From his flashy public persona to his ultimate demise behind bars, Gotti's life serves as a cautionary tale of power, loyalty, and betrayal within the underworld. While Gotti may have enjoyed years of evading justice, the relentless pursuit by law enforcement ultimately shattered the myth of the untouchable Teflon Don. The facts we've explored in this documentary highlight the incredible twists and turns of his criminal career, offering a fascinating glimpse into one of the most infamous mob bosses in American history. Gotti's legacy, while infamous, is a stark reminder that no one, no matter how powerful, can escape justice forever.